And the answer to that question has to do with the map that I've got right here on this screen. Now, this map, what's the story with it? Well, I'm bringing it to the front because I want you to see what we're looking at. In blue, we have all of the territories of America, colonies like the Philippines we acquired in 1898. We've got Guam, Wake Island, Midway Island, islands down here like American Samoa, Hawaii, Alaska. And then you can see the other nations as well. In yellow, everything owned by Britain as a colony. In this kind of orange, the Netherlands. Purple, the French. Portuguese in green. Japan was seeing itself as shut out of the Pacific. You see, she had made little gains, like these little tiny islands right here, but she was really kind of blocked from any real big colonial possessions. Now, I know we had talked about, and I shared with you, that in the early 1930s, Japan had attacked China. She had taken Korea in 1910, this little part of this island from Russia in 1905. That was the Russo-Japanese War. And then in 1931, 32, 33, 34, all the way up to 1939, she had taken all of these portions of China. But is there anywhere else to go? And the answer there is not really. There's not many other places to go at all. Well, why does that matter? That matters because Japan itself depends on us and other nations of the world for its raw materials. It's an island nation. It doesn't have the materials that it needs to keep its economy going. Remember, Japan was in the Great Depression like everybody else, and its argument was that we need to expand to get the resources we need to provide for our country, which is superior. Well, they've been fighting for quite a while, you can see, right? 1910, 1930. They depend on us for many of those resources. America doesn't want Japan to expand anymore. We're the dominant Pacific power now, not Japan. So, we see a country like Japan, which is trying to continue its expansion by joining the Axis powers. And then you're going to see America respond to that by doing things like limiting the amount of materials that we'll sell, strategic materials that we'll sell to Japan, by sending lend-lease aid to Japan's enemy, China, in 1941, freezing all investments in Japan, in America by Japan. Essentially, we're saying to the Japanese that you're done. That's it. Game over, go home. There's no place else to expand. Japan is so desperate they actually enter into negotiations with us to try and get us to change our point of view, to try and get us to unfreeze their assets, all of their investments. Stop selling lend-lease aid. Stop limiting strategic materials. But those negotiations begin to break down. In fact, even while Japan is negotiating with us, in November of that year, they're actually preparing for a surprise attack at the very same time. Now, America's not dumb. We have some idea that this kind of thing is going to happen. We know that Japan is planning an attack. We just don't know when, and we don't know where. And we still hope that negotiations will work. I mean, as early as November 27th, we actually send out a warning to everybody around the planet, including Pearl Harbor, that we're expecting an attack soon. We just don't know when or where. That attack happens on December 7th, 1941. Remember, we had said we'd look for an excuse to get to war with Germany? Well, here's that excuse. Japan is a member of the Axis powers. When Japan attacks us, now we have the authority to attack them and their allies. Germany, Italy. Game on, America. The attack itself on December 7th is absolutely devastating. More than 2,000 are killed, more than 1,000 are wounded. In fact, it's the largest loss of American life in one day of war since the Civil War, and had been unmatched since that point in time. And we declare war the next day. President Roosevelt calls it a day which will live in infamy. And it's the beginning of World War II for us, the official beginning, even though nations in Europe and in the Pacific had been at it for a decade. Quite a long time before we show up. We'll talk more about this in class, and we'll we'll go from there.